Joining me now is retired Army Major Mike Lyons. Obviously, Alex, down here, you saw the destruction inside Odessa, including in that cathedral. And Major, we're talking about what? Ukraine has now claimed responsibility for drone attacks in Moscow and also Crimea. And we do have video of the damage from the drone strike in Moscow. Why is it that you think that Ukraine is claiming credit for this? Because for months and months and months, there'd be attacks like this. Ukraine would try to maintain plausible deniability. This time they're saying, no, we did this. Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think, first of all, 6 weeks into the counteroffensive, they have to show some kind of progress. And at this point, it shows that they can. It shows that they can take a drone, get it through Russian air defense systems, and get it into Moscow. So I think that's the primary reason. The second one, though, is for Crimea. In particular, they have to threaten Crimea. They have to go after those ammunition dumps. They have to make that the place where that if they can say that they could actually take Crimea, then the Russians then come to negotiation table. The Crimea part, I understand. I do understand the strategic value of that. But when you look at the pictures and compare the drone strikes on this building, yes, windows are out, but compare that to what we were seeing from Alex Marquardt of the Federal, and then the damage in Odessa. To the grain, grain for this 9-day. I mean, what the Russians are doing to the Ukrainians is nothing. Nothing compared. Because what the Ukrainians are doing to the mass in Moscow was like a scratch. Yeah. And what they've done in Odessa is all about trying to cut off the food supply there. It's about, again, what they can do from the Russians' perspective, that they had left Odessa alone. For the past few months, they had been focused more on the tactical side. This is Russia amping up the stakes with regard to what they can do. Now, one other new development that happened overnight, and we can sort of see where it took place on the map here, down here, on the Ukrainian border. With Romania is the Danube. The Russians hit a river port on the Ukrainian side of that border, but that's not far from Romania, which is a NATO country. So the Russians are now attacking somewhere that's literally within eyesight of a NATO nation. And here's why. Because that's where the Ukrainian government has overland taken that grain that they have to ship from their revenue. They need that revenue perspective, and they've used the Danube. They've used into Romania to do that. So it's Russia sending a signal that they're going to go after it. Now, potentially, we could talk about NATO ships coming into the Black Sea. Turkey would have to get permission to do that. But right now, they're using the Danube River in order to use that have the grain go overland. And it's more expensive, and it takes a lot longer. So, again, if you look at the map here, I can clear up where I circled there in yellow, and it's very faint. You can hardly see it. And the reason for that is there's not much land, but these little gains in yellow here. And then in here, these are the areas where the Ukrainians have taken back territory in the counteroffensive, which has been slow. Yeah, 6 weeks in right now. I wouldn't say it's a failure. But again, 3 reasons. Number 1, they have not synchronized combat arms, and they've not been able to bring all things together of the equipment they have. It's a very difficult mission to do that for really a non-NATO country. Just because we've given them the tools to do, that doesn't mean that they can actually do it. The second thing is these trenches. that exist here in the defensive lines, they're way more significant than the Ukraine military had planned. They don't have the equipment to take those out as well. And then the last thing comes down to air superiority. Russia still has tremendous close air support. That's what's happening right now. So these helicopters, and we have a picture of now, are Russian helicopters. I keep hearing from people on the ground in Ukraine, including you, people associated with Ukrainian troops saying they've got no defense against these Russian helicopters. These Russian helicopters can stay far enough behind the lines, so they're not threatened at all, but they can shoot. You can see the weaponry they have, and they can hit whatever they want. On the Ukrainians, yeah, the stingers that they have on the Ukraine side can't get to them, and they have tremendous mobility. So anytime the Ukraine military can organize some synchronized fight and bring artillery and bring maneuver together, these show up on the battlefield, and they are difference makers, similar to what we do with our Apaches and our helicopters. Okay, so if everyone knows the situation now, which is relatively static, how can Ukraine achieve a breakthrough? Well, they're going to have to continue to try to probe and try to find weaknesses in these systems here and use the artillery that we've given with the cluster munitions. And there's a little bit of hope here. The hope is that the Russian morale will decrease, and there's the hope that some of those units will surrender. That's not necessarily a great plan, but it just tells me that this is going. This war of attrition and this grinding type operation is going to go on for months. All right, retired Army Major Mike Lyons, thanks so much for helping us understand the situation on the ground, the changing situation. Appreciate it.